Come to order.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sanctify your Father those whom you have called to the study and practice of the arts of healing and the prevention of disease and pain. Strengthen them by your life-giving spirit. By their ministries, the health of the community may be promoted. We pray today with special intentions for Dr. Stanley Dudrick and his family. Amen.
Roll call.
Mr. Conklin?
Present.
Mr. Pietcha?
Present.
Ms. Kuczynski? Present. Mrs. McKevich is excused this evening. Mr. Brown?
Present.
Vera Dubczynsky, the city clerk is present. Solicitor Attorney Willie Finnegan.
Present.
City Manager Don Hall. Present. Finance Director Jim Lee. Present.
Thank you, Betsy. Good evening, everyone. On this special occasion to honor Dr. Stanley J. Dudrick, first we're going to go over a quick council meeting so we can get a couple of our items taken care of, and then we'll have the presentation for the doctor. We have the discussion of council meeting action for the work session. Administrative updates for council. We have none tonight. Motion to adjourn the work session.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilman Coughlin, second by Councilman Kuczynski to adjourn the work session. Roll call.
Mr. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Pietcha?
Yes.
Ms. Kuczynski? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes. Council meeting agenda. Comments from the public. Agenda items only. Old business. Oh, Mr. Stovak, I'm sorry, I couldn't see the
All
light.
right, I put in a request. Michael Paul.
That's later on, Mike.
That's
Martin,
That's later. This is for the agenda item. It'll be for comments from the public.
Dr. Dudrick is on the agenda, and I put Dr. Dudrick on the
All
form.
right, go ahead.
That is an agenda item.
Go ahead.
I was born and raised in the Honeycott section of Nanticoke, but I've never met Dr. Dudrick. But our paths did cross in a way 10,000 miles from here when I was moved in. I had 3 legs, 3 limbs amputated, 4 totally advantages suspended above me. I also had intestinal injuries that I could not take any food orally. But because of his brilliance, plugged into my neck was a big IV, which enabled me to get enough calories until I was healed enough that I could take food approximately 2 weeks later. So if not for God, Dr. Dudrick and the Army Medical Corps, I probably wouldn't be here. And that would really tick off my wife, kids, and grandkids. Small faith on the millions of people that he touched.
Thank you, Mike. 3 under new business, A, motion to approve the minutes from the July 5th, 2017 meeting. I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilman Pietcha, second by Councilman Kuczynski to approve the minutes from the July 5th, 2017 meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Pietcha?
Yes.
Mrs. Kuczynski? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes. The motion to approve the payment of bills in a total of $632,257.79. Payables are $539,388.44. Payroll, $92,869.35.
I'll make the motion to pay bills in a set amount.
I'll second. Motion by Councilman Coughlin, second by Councilman Pietcha to pay the bills in the said amount. Roll call.
Mr. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Pietcha?
Yes.
Ms. Kuczynski? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Comments from the public. I just had Mr. Stahovia address already. That's all I have. Correspondence, nothing for tonight. Announcements, we have nothing for tonight. At this time, the honoring of Dr. Stanley J. Dudrick by Mayor Richard Wojtkowski. Mayor.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome Dr. Dudrick his family, and friends, distinguished guests, and citizens. What an honor for myself, City Council, and the City of Nanticoke to recognize the hometown man with such an impeccable list of achievements and worldwide reputation. One of the 50 most influential physicians in history, born and raised right here in Nanticoke. Known as a father of intravenous feeding for having developed the technology that has saved millions of lives and used in every hospital in the world. You are an inspiration and a true role model. Thank you for always being proud of your roots in Nanticoke. Having grown up on West Union Street, we are proud to honor you today. First, I'd like to present you with the proclamation of the City of Nanticoke. Dr. Dudrick, I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas Nanticoke City native Stanley at an early age began thinking of the future of medicine, a young man's fierce desire to save lives. And whereas in 1957, he graduated with honors from Franklin Marshall College with a Bachelor of Science in Biology. His Doctor of Medicine degree was conferred by the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. Dr. Douglas' career as a distinguished surgeon, professor, and a scientist led him to various medical opportunities. Throughout his medical career, he has earned the respect of colleagues worldwide. And whereas critical ill were dying from lack of nourishment, Dr. Dudrick, with great intellectual capacity, vision, and courage, developed total parenteral nutrition, TPN, and intravenous nourishment. TPN has been described as one of the 4 most significant accomplishments in history of the development of modern surgery. Millions of lives have been saved by TPN. And whereas Dr. Dudrick, a surgeon for 56 years, continues today to spread his knowledge, he has come back home leading medical students at the Geyser Commonwealth School of Medicine. He is a dedicated mentor. He is a hero. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor, Nanticoke City Council, our community, this 19th day of July 2017, that we do hereby commend Dr. Stanley J. Dudrick for his remarkable discovery in medicine. He is a true inspiration. And proclaimed further by Mayor Wojtkowski and the City Council, we hereby extend best wishes to Dr. Stanley J. Dudrick. We are proud to honor you today in our hometown of Nanticoke. Secondly, I would like to present you with an honorary naming of West Union Street as Dr. Stanley J. Dudrick Drive. Dr. Tracy and Dr. Yoch, please step forward. Lastly, I would like to present you with a historical marker honoring you and all your achievements. This was kindly donated by Alan Wolstein. Anybody ready? Next, I'd like to welcome up here to say a few words, Senator John Dudrick.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Dr. Dudrick, you can stay for a moment. For me to give you any instruction. You're an exceptional educator, and I have the great fortune of representing the people in northeastern Pennsylvania in the General Assembly, first in the House of Representatives and now in the Senate. And over those 2 decades, I've got to meet a lot of community heroes. I've got to present literally thousands of citations. Never have I been more humbled to stand in the presence of greatness. Someone who has made, as Mr. Strahoviak had so eloquently stated, made a difference in millions of lives, literally saving millions of lives. The boy from West Union Street. And when I was thinking about your career, whether it was at Penn and now at Misericordia, or your work at the Geisinger Commonwealth Medical College, and we're so grateful to have that college there, and I know that you were a big part of bringing that to our region. It's so special to have an institution like that medical college here in northeastern Pennsylvania. But as an educator, I thought about what this street, Dr. Stanley Dudrick Street in Nanticoke, and I want to commend the mayor and the city council and all that were part of this. So important to honor our community heroes, because Dr. Dudrick, first and foremost, is an educator, and he's been that for over 50 years. And for the next 1,000 years, as fathers and mothers drive down Dr. Dudrick Street in Nanticoke, there are going to be young boys and girls that are going to ask the question, who was Dr. Dudrick? What did he do? And those parents are going to educate their children to say that any boy or girl from Nanticoke, Pittston, Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton, anywhere in the world, if you have talent, if you have dedication, if you got good parents, if you got compassion, you can make the difference in millions of lives. So Dr. Dudrick, you will forever be an educator. The naming of this street and this beautiful town of Nanticoke that we love. So I want to present to you, on behalf of a grateful Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, a citation authored by myself and Senator Lisa Baker from the Senate of Pennsylvania, honoring you and your lifetime achievement and this great honor that's been bestowed on you by your hometown, Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to welcome State Representative Jerry Moore.
Quite a night. Now you're moving down to the minor leagues with me. As I prepared for tonight and learned more about Dr. Dudrick, there were 2 things that really caused me to take a step back and want to share with you tonight. The first really is the unmitigated pride that this gentleman has in having been born, raised, educated, mentored, and essentially being a product of the city of Nanticoke. If you had an opportunity to read the really well-written article by Bob Kalinowski, I know I saw him here earlier tonight, in the Citizen's Voice this week, it was striking. And you understood that this gentleman was extremely proud of his roots. There was one quote in the article that I want to share with you in case you didn't have a chance to read it. It says this: "All these years later, I still wanted to come back home to kind of pay back the people who helped me grow and support me and allowed me to go off and get a great education. I had this emotional draw to come back to the area." That is what we, as the leaders of the General Assembly, Senator Dudrick and I, Mayor Wojtrowski, this council, Dr. Rivera, the school district, and the Board of Education, and all those involved in our great civic organizations in Nanticoke are trying to do. Create that type of environment that regardless of what your work accomplishments are, your personal accomplishments are, you either A, don't want to leave Nanticoke, or if you do, can't wait to come back. And we need look no further than this gentleman right here as a shining example of that. That was number one. Number two, as I get ready for events like this in district, my wife and family will often ask me, what's on the agenda? What are you doing tonight? And when I tell them, they will entertain me with, passing interest. My wife is a registered dietitian. And when she read the story in the Citizen's Voice about Dr. Dudrick and found out that I was coming here tonight, she said, "Do you realize how important this gentleman is and how important his ingenuity was to millions of people across the globe?" And of course I said, yes, that's why we're honoring him. Why I tell you that, doctor, is because if you can impress my wife, which is something I have been trying to do unsuccessfully for like 30 years, then you are the most meritorious person ever to do with a citation from the Pennsylvania House of Representatives on your personal and professional accomplishments. And again, thank you for never forgetting your roots and being a true ambassador for the city of Nanticoke.
Dr. Dudrick, I'm sorry. With the microphone, you want to say anything to this?
First they choke me up and then they want me to talk. I appreciate your confidence in me. Thank you. Wow. I guess as a kid born and raised in Nanticoke, you have dreams and aspirations, and you figure that most of them are not going to ever be realized because after all, we're not very important, we're not powerful, we're not rich, we don't have any status with the biggies and the big cities or in seats of government. But we were instilled with a pride and actually a love that's really essential and irreplaceable. What I owe this entire city, every member of the community, is gratitude for their love and confidence in me, their nurturing, offering me a good place to grow up, a safe place to grow up, education, and it wasn't just a formal education in schools, it was a street education that we learned from our parents who worked so hard, didn't complain, they didn't run around the streets with posters complaining about anything. They expected you to work as hard as they did. And they didn't have to tell you that, you just knew it. And by their exceptional role modeling and by their exceptional lives, they set a pattern and a standard for me and my colleagues growing up in those days. My best friend at the time, Greg Brzezinski, who's here. We started back in grade school and right through university. You can't ever pay back to the community what they gave you. And many of them didn't even think they were giving you anything. They were just leading the best kind of lives they could. You know, God respecting their neighbors, taking their responsibility, not only doing their share, but extra, not shirking. And those are things that impress you such that when you finally have to cut that cord, which is not easy, and go off into the rest of the world and try to make your way, you take with you a chunk of that character building that they gave you, and you try to add on to it. You try to show people that you have something to start with, and that if they invest in you, they'll probably get a good return, and that you're worthy of them giving you additional education. But not only are my friends, neighbors, and family fantastic supporters of me, all my teachers. I mean, I can remember Vera Davis, my first grade teacher. I can quote her. I'm in from and it goes on to Miss Roberts, Miss Vaca, and Mr. Davis, and all Miss Supek, right off into high school, into the science teachers and the math teachers. And when I went to Franklin and Marshall College with the kind of background they gave me, even though I thought I had a good background, I was scared to death. I saw 80% of my class at Franklin and Marshall College graduated from preparatory schools. And a lot of them had silver spoons, and some of them had gold spoons in their mouths. And me, I had clodhoppers and jeans. And I didn't unpack my bags in school for the first 3 weeks because I figured it was a waste of my time. I was going to get kicked out after the first round of examinations. Well, we had our first round of examinations, and I gained high A's in every one of my exams. Went back to my room and unpacked. And I thought we could make it. Well, at any rate, F&M transformed me from a bumpkin kid from Nanticoke to a scholar. They taught me how to be a scholar. They taught me how to love learning. They taught me how to embrace learning and then to pass it on to other people and to add to it. Don't just take, multiply it like a stock certificate. And these are the things that I never forgot, and I tried to practice them. And I'm so grateful to all of you who have been spectacular role models for me, directly or indirectly, and have influenced my life so greatly. I wanted to come back here so much that I cried when I couldn't. But I got so super trained at Penn, there was no place for me to practice in Nanticoke. There was no infrastructure for a heart surgeon. That didn't come until a gentleman you'll meet here in a little while, Dr. Gerald Tracy, came to this region and established cardiology, interventional cardiology, operating rooms, intensive care units, heart surgery. Now we have it all, and now we have a medical school. But I was 30 or 40 years ahead of that. But thank God for people like Dr. Tracy and Dr. Naismith and Mr. Goldstein and others in the audience to start that medical school in our midst and give us this opportunity to be big leaders. We're now the big leagues, and we're going to really go. And what I would like to do to give back to this community is try to inspire the young people here to let them know if Dudrick can make it, anybody can. And so I don't want to belittle the significance of the honors that I've received from the Senate and the House of Representatives and the council and the mayor and the city manager. You not only honored me, but you allowed me, I hope, through this honor, to honor all of the future sons and daughters of this community and to help inspire them to go and do likewise or better. And I hope much better. We can do it, and I think with the kind of leadership that we have here on the stage and in the audience, that the future is secure. The very auditorium that you're sitting in the Luzerne County Community College. This used to be a field where there were snakes when I was a kid. And we came out here thinking we were in the jungles of Africa. And now we've got this magnificent education institution which ranks as one of the highest in the state and country. So we can do it. And we have to inspire our kids to do it. And show them that there's a better way to live than with knives, guns, fists, drugs, alcohol, and a lot of other bad things that they will tend to do if they're not taught how to do the right thing and rewarded for it. So I don't want to preach. I'm preaching to the choir. You all know that. But I think it's a challenge to them, and I hope that I'll be able to help in the future, perhaps in the high school, meeting with kids to help guide them in the right direction and to reach for the stars, because they're there to be had. And I'm very, very grateful to all of you. And as I said originally, my family was dedicated to keeping me out of coal mines. All my uncles and cousins, they all worked in the coal mines for periods of time, and they were dedicated to keeping me out of them. And they all got together to see that I got an education. And I've never been in a coal mine. Not even to look at. And I'm so grateful for people to protect me and push me off into, coal mining was great. It made this community what it was. But it was dangerous, and it was hard work, and they put all that together to see that I could go at a higher plane of achievement, and I hope I didn't disappoint them. And not only have they all nurtured me and taught me, and I'm so grateful to all of you, but you've enriched my life, and that's even the most important thing. My life has been so much more valuable by having you all participants in it. And I know all of you, and I can probably tell you what you taught me, because it's a precious thing when somebody gives something to somebody else, especially if it's knowledge, especially if it's useful knowledge. I'm an advocate and a disciple of Benjamin Franklin, as you might expect. And he wanted to be as useful as he could, as long as he could. And that's my motto. I want to be as useful as I can for as long as I can. And I hope I'll bring something useful back to Nanticoke for all the generosity you've given me and my family throughout my life. And I'm so grateful to you, Mr. Mayor, and council members, representative and senator, and especially to my colleagues at the medical school, the guys here at Commonwealth Medical School, for the opportunity to participate with them. And I didn't really have anything to do with starting that school. They did it. I came on after it was there 3 or 4 years. But I hope I'm making a contribution at this point. And I think I'm making a contribution to his recording, which is my wife's alma mater, and which is why I'm there. And now she didn't order me, but And I'm grateful to Jerry Tracy, whom you'll hear later. He was a student of mine, one of the best students I ever had at Penn. And look at him now. And I guess, lastly and most importantly regarding this affair going on here now, Alan Goldstein is a unique human being that I had the privilege of meeting here in Scranton about 5 years ago or 4, and we've become fast friends. He's a tremendous supporter of education and everything that's right in life. He does things, the right things for the right reasons, expecting nothing in return. He's a truly selfless, generous, honorable, kind, hospitable man. And Alan, it's such a privilege to be your friend, and you really are a benefactor of mine in many, many ways, and a role model. I thank you for that. Thank you for your forbearance, but I'd be up here all night if you wanted me to tell everything that I owe to everybody. But God bless you all. I love you. I hope that I will not embarrass you by the rest of my life. And I'm so thankful that you think I did something important enough to take your time and your investment here. And Aunt Laura's even here.
Our meeting tonight.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilman Coughlin, second by Councilman Paczynski to adjourn our council meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Pietchik?
Yes.
Ms. Paczynski? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes. Our next meeting will be August the 2nd at the City Building. Thank you for attending and enjoy the night.
On behalf of Dr. Stephen Scheinman, the Dean and President of Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you here this evening to honor Dr. Stanley Dudrick. We at the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine are very fortunate to consider him amongst our faculty, and our students are certainly singularly honored to claim him as a professor. This evening, we have a short program. We'll be having a number of individuals highlight the substantial life's work of Dr. Dudrick. And suffice it to say, I agree in advance with all the accolades they will be describing about him. Before we move forward, though, I just have a little bit of housework. I'd like to especially thank for this evening the Nanticoke City Council, the Honorable Mayor Richard Wojtkowski, City Manager Donna Wall, and Mr. Alan Goldstein. Is Alan here? There he is. Who's made all of this possible. Thank you very much, Alan. I'd also like to recognize Representative Gerald Mullery, Senator John Yudichak, Mr. Thomas Leary, President of Luzerne County Medical College, and we're honored to have one of the college's trustees, Attorney Sheila Seidman, here tonight as well. Special recognition to the Nanticoke High School class of 1953, who are in substantial attendance for this evening's event. And then finally, two of our distinguished founders, Dr. Robert Wright and Robert Naismith, and also Attorney John Moses, one of our distinguished prior trustees of the Commonwealth College of Medicine. On behalf of the medical school, thank you all for being here. I'm now going to turn this over through the magic of video technology to have an address from our Dean and President, Dr. Scheinman.
When someone is called a living legend, he's usually not what you would call humble or kind. When you accomplish things no one's ever done before, it tends to go to your head. Steve Jobs and Michael DeBakey, for example, are reputed to have been, to put it gently, difficult. But since I've known him, Stan, whose accomplishments are every bit as great as theirs, has been unfailingly gracious and modest to a fault. He takes a deep and sincere interest in our school. He considers it an honor to teach our students and has great respect for them and for the profession. And his incredible scientific achievements and the acclaim that comes with them have never made him too big to snub his own hometown. Stan loves Nanticoke and calls us, the citizens of northeastern Pennsylvania, his people. I want to share a story that demonstrates exactly what I mean about Stan. When I first came here as Dean of Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine, I was attending a lecture and took a seat next to a distinguished-looking gentleman with silver hair. I introduced myself, and extending his hand, he replied, "I'm Stan Dudrick," in the way I imagine he would have done when he was an unknown freshman from Nanticoke at Franklin and Marshall College. I had to do a double take. "The Stan Dudrick?" I asked, in awe. He replied, "Well, I guess so." I think this speaks volumes about the man's humility and depth of character. To physicians, Stan is an almost mythical character, the father of total parenteral nutrition, TPN, a therapy the Journal of the American Medical Association called one of the 4 most significant accomplishments in the history of the development of modern surgery, together with the discovery and development of asepsis and antisepsis, antibiotic therapy, and anesthesia. And move over, Dr. DeBakey, TPN has also been acknowledged as one of the 3 most important advancements in surgery in the past century, along with open heart surgery and organ transplantation. I think it's fitting that Stan's monumental contribution has been to nourish people. That's what true philanthropists do. They find ways to sustain and uplift people and never forget that all the technological wizardry in the world cannot replace simple caring, nurturing, and compassion. And think about this. Of all the hundreds of scientific and technological advances that Stan pioneered in developing TPN, he did not patent a single one of them. Had he done so and licensed and profited from them, he would today be a billionaire. But he felt that to do so would limit access to these advances by patients and their doctors and limit their benefit. So he intentionally did not do that. So Stan is not just humble and brilliant, he is absolutely selfless. I am sure today you will hear all about the towering place Stan holds in the annals of medicine. I hope we'll remember that what makes him great is his intellect, yes, but also his fully human heart that drove all of his research and surgical success. It is wonderful to hear him talk fondly of his patients. Stan, congratulations and thank you for your commitment to Geisinger Commonwealth. Our students are very fortunate to have you as a teacher and mentor. Our faculty and I are proud and excited to have you as a colleague. Like your hometown of Nanticoke, all of us at this community's medical college are grateful that you are part of our family.
I would now like to invite Ann Dudrick, daughter of Stan and Terry, to the podium to make a few comments.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Dudrick, the youngest child of Dr. Stanley and Teresa Dudrick. We're here today to honor my father's life work and contribution to medicine and surgery. It's a well-deserved honor for him to receive. It's so wonderful to see all of our family and friends. Thank you so much for coming. The reason I am up here is to honor my father's greatest support and likely the reason that he has an enriching environment to achieve his success, my mother, Teresa Monica King Dudrick. Dedication, love, support, strength, and resilience. The story of my mom is one of unyielding support, love, devotion, sophistication, flexibility, strength, inquisition, accommodation, selflessness, dependability. Mom is the glue, one of a kind, thrifty, welcoming, the best hostess, beautiful. My parents met while working at Skytop Lodge during the summer of their college years. As Dad tells the story, one night after all the guests left the dining room after the dinner service and all the workers were finishing up their cleaning, Dad sat down with some of the other boys, smoking cigars and doing a little 1950s smack talk. Dad said something about the gal behind the bar and laughed. Next thing he knew, a bar towel arrived hastily across his face. I believe his love for my mother started at that precise moment. Mom and Dad dated while in college. Mom graduated 2 years before Dad and taught English and Latin to high school students. A year after Dad graduated college, they were married. And just a few years later, they were blessed with their first child, Susan. A mere 6 years and 9 months later, after the arrival of Paul, Carolyn, Stanley, and Holly, I arrived, their baby. Mom raised the 6 of us in Pennsylvania during the time Dad completed medical school and his medical residency. Along with that, both of their 18-year-old brothers, Danny and Tommy, were living with us. Rumor has it that their mothers evicted them, but I'm sure that's an exaggeration. As a mother, I can barely wrap my brains around what that house must have been like. 6 kids under the age of 10 and 2 young men trying to start their lives. There were broken bones, measles, mumps, chicken pox, many pets, thousands of diapers. You can just imagine. At the mere ages of 37 and 39, Dad and Mom moved our family to Houston, Texas. The 8 of us and our dog Rusty made the drive from Philadelphia to Houston in the summer of 1972. While Dad started his new job at Herman Hospital, Mom got our family settled into our new home and our new schools. The times at 527 Salwood Lane were memorable. I remember my older siblings did sports and band and all sorts of activities. We were always in the car going somewhere for someone's event or competition. My mom always made everything seem fun. As a mom now, I know how burdensome all the chauffeuring can be, but my mom never complained. Every trip was an adventure. My parents hosted many parties. I remember our house being full of smiling, happy friends. For the days before the parties, Mom would task out chores for us to do in preparation for the party. I wasn't a big fan of the dusting and vacuuming and yard work, but I loved preparing the food. Tasting the food was my favorite. Mom's cream puffs were the best. I remember on several occasions hearing friends ask Mom who catered the party. After she humbly said there was no caterer, that was followed by awe and questions about recipes and how did you do all this. My siblings and I would walk around serving hors d'oeuvres, refreshing drinks, and tending to the trash. Mom always had tasks for those of us who wanted to help, but also let us go to our rooms when we were done in the crowd. She kept us manageably busy so that when the party was over, there wasn't an overwhelming amount of cleanup to do. Mom had an amazing way of making chores fun. Certainly, we kids did more than our fair share of complaining, but for the most part, I remember the days we did chores as a family as being pretty fun. After long days of mowing grass and raking leaves, we'd end the day with a big bonfire. That was allowed back then. I remember when Mom got me excited about vacuuming. As I was working the vacuum, the noise and the grit going up the machine sounded, Mom would exclaim, "There you go, you're getting all the dirt." It made me very proud and excited for more vacuuming thrills. It still does to this day. Our house was the inn for numerous residents and doctors who were on rotation with Dad. Many were from different countries. Mom was such a gracious hostess. She always made guests feel welcome, cared for, and well fed. The kids were exposed to so many languages and cultures growing up. Mom loved learning languages. She seemed to always have a Berlitz language tape playing. She was fearless when it came to her curiosity and inquisition. I remember her always asking thoughtful questions about different cultures, hobbies, crafts, occupations, and traditions. To this day, I still hear Mom ask all sorts of questions to a variety of people. She has a magical way of making people want to tell their stories. You feel honored, loved, listened to, and important when engaging in conversation with Mom. Mom has always been thoughtful of everyone. During holidays and special occasions, we would help Mom wrap present after present for the staff, administrators, nurses, doctors, residents, and students that work with Dad. It was such a labor of love, kindness, and respect. During the tighter years, Mom made it a game for us to buy presents for each other for only $5 each. I remember feeling like a treasure hunt. I'd be so proud if I could find something for one of my siblings for only $3. During the school year, Mom spent endless hours supporting us during our academic and extracurricular activities. From what I can recall for the 6 of us, there was violin, trumpet, French horn, trombone, flute, clarinet, marching band, baseball, ballet, gymnastics, tennis, football, track, golf, swimming, and academic competitions. We were the first family that I knew who got a Suburban, such a huge car, yet we barely fit. We went everywhere in that car. We put many miles on our first one and got an upgrade just a few years later. As I got older and bigger than Mom, I always got a kick out of little Mom driving that big car. And you better get out of her way when she's behind the wheel. Mom always found fun and creative things for us to do. She took us to sports games and theaters. We were Astros buddies and theater season ticket holders. Paul recalls going to an Astros game with Mom shortly after graduating high school. The game went a whopping 18 innings. Paul said Mom never complained once. She pulled out her knitting and enjoyed the game with him. She had a way of making us really be in our experiences. I especially find this so wonderful this day and age with so many kids with their faces hidden in electronics. There's a wonderful world out there that Mom always wanted us to see. Holidays have always been special. My parents have always hosted guests, especially those whose families were not in Houston. Mom always cooked everything. We'd be busy elves all day helping her with the cooking and cleaning. The house was always decorated beautifully. Mom has a particular style that's both elegant and humble, beautiful and welcoming, special and relaxing. People have always felt at home when they've been in our house. I've always considered my parents to be the best hosts I've ever known. Summers were the best. We'd load up in the Suburban, all 8 of us and the dogs, drove across the country from Texas to New Hampshire, making stops in Pennsylvania to see family. Dad got us a CB radio, so we all learned to talk to truckers and look for Smokies. Mom's handle was Leadfoot. She outdrove us all. I imagine she was ready to get to where we're going more than anyone. In New Hampshire, we had to rough it for a few years while we were building our vacation house. We lived in the pull trailer. We had no electricity or running water. Again, Mom made everything a game. We helped build the house, we wandered through the woods, we had campfire cookouts, we bathed in the lake. Mom managed all of us during what should have been her vacation too. I'm pretty sure Mom didn't have a real vacation for at least 20 years while we were all growing up. The summer before we moved to Texas, the entire family, grandmother included, went on a trip around the world. Dad had to travel for work and only agreed to do it if the whole family would come. So there were so many amazing things to see, and Mom led us on every adventure. There were elephants, camels, boa constrictors, kangaroos, koala bears, air sickness, barfing, ear infections, broken legs, cuts, scrapes, and bruises. Endless complaining by her kids, yet nothing but stoic resilience and love from Mom. Over the years, as we kids have grown up, had careers and relationships, and produced grandchildren, Mom and Dad have not slowed down. Mom has been by Dad's side through it all. Job changes, moves to different states, retirement, travel, and health issues. They moved from Houston to Philadelphia, back to Houston, then to Connecticut. Dad's work has allowed them to travel all over the world. They just returned from an annual trip to Poland last month. Dad's work has allowed them to travel the world. Mom has always been his steadfast companion. They enjoyed Africa last year, their first official vacation that did not involve Dad's work. Mom and Dad have supported their 6 children through graduations, career startups, career changes, marriages, and divorces. They've supported us all through the good times and the bad times. Mom and Dad have 16 grandchildren, all of whom love them dearly. Mom has been there for all of us when we needed to talk, to share our struggles and successes, to lean on her for support and advice, to seek her wisdom, to have an unconditional loving ear to listen to us. Throw anything at Mom. She will listen, comfort, let the ashes fall, then be the first person to pick up a broom and start cleaning up the mess. Her strength, resilience, and determined love is unmatched. Over the last 10 years, both Mom have had health issues. Mom has been by Dad's side during it all. She cared for him and was by his side when he needed it most. Over the past few years, Mom has had surgeries on her eyes and knees. She recovered gracefully and still managed to take care of things. I would be remiss to not acknowledge my brother Stanley. For over 10 years, Stanley has been supporting Mom and Dad at home while working with Dad on his many endeavors. Stanley has endured long, crazy hours on the computer with Dad. Stanley has been an irreplaceable asset for Dad's work these past years. Stanley has also helped with both the Connecticut house and the houses in New Hampshire. With the harsh New England winters, much work has needed to be done, especially the older house. Stanley has been instrumental in all of the repairs and regular maintenance of the houses. He always prepares everything when we family members come to visit our vacations. He is extremely welcoming and accommodating to our needs. I cannot thank Stanley enough for all he does for us and our parents. Truly, Mom and Dad would have a much more challenging life had Stanley not been with them over these past years. We are all indebted to him. Stanley, we love you. We appreciate you. There's not enough time or words to express and acknowledge all the wonders that are my mother. I can confidently say that Dr. Stanley J. Dudrick would not be who he is today had it not been for the impeccable woman by his side, my mom, Terry Dudrick. Mom, we love you dearly.
I'm supposed to introduce myself. You know, you heard it was the minor leagues before, we're now in the little leagues. My name is Jerry Tracy, and I'm very proud to say that I'm from Sugar Nut. And this is the only audience who will know where the hell that was. They asked me to say a few things about my good friend Stanley, and I was going to start by talking about his daughter, but I don't have to now. So I'm going to go to Stanley. In a way, this was easy, and in a way, it's hard. My job at the medical school, I'm there, is to usually introduce people. I introduced Bob Wright. You already heard about Dr. Wright, Dr. Naismith, two of our founders, John Moses, who's been so important. But Stanley's probably the easiest and hardest, and the reason is that he's done so much that it's hard to synthesize it in a very short period of time. That's what makes it hard. But Maurice Garofalo said, be very short, and I'm going to do my best. What I thought I'd do, and much of the points I was going to make have already been made. So I'm going to kind of elaborate maybe a little on a few, but I want to prove the thesis that not only is Stan a terrific physician, you've heard that, but he is truly unique. We all like to be unique, but he really is unique. Part of it, I do think, is the balance from his wife. But in any event, in addition to that, I want to tell you a few stories. I would suggest that Stanley is the only physician in the world to have a street named after him in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, and a hospital named after him in Krakow, Poland. I mean, I don't know when that's going to be started. Now, the other thing that makes Stanley unique is that only one famous person has ever worked, to my knowledge, with dogs. And he ran away with the award for scientists working with dogs. Ivan Pavlov. And here we have Stanley Dudrick, who has worked with his little puppy dogs to make Stan what Stan is today. So he's another different kind of category. You already heard about his educational background, and he has received, I was supposed to read Stan, but I'll go too long and I won't. But there are a lot of emails from all over the place congratulating Stan tonight. I think one of the most poignant is from the F&M chairperson, and you will get a copy of that afterwards. The other one I practiced all afternoon. Let's see if I get it. The American Society for Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition. He's a life member and a specially designated person. No one else has attained that particular level. At Penn, he has been recognized as possibly or probably the most outstanding graduate ever come from the University of Pennsylvania Medical. I first knew him back in 1966. We were in surgery. And surgery's a lot of show and tell. It's cut and sew. Maybe not the most intellectual field in medicine. As an internist, I could say that. But in any event, we're taking our rotations and we're not getting any background. How do you take care of patients? What do you do before? What do you do after? What about nutrition? What about fluids? And I heard of this terrific young attending at Penn who volunteered and had tutorials at night. And I went to them, and they were packed. And that person's name, of course, is Stanley Dudrick. At the list that you had heard from twice now, but Medscope, which is a database in medicine, has ranked Stanley as in the top 50 physicians in world medical history. I mean, that speaks for itself. And just think about that. A boy from Nanticoke, as well known as Galen. I think that is another accomplishment. The Nobel Prize, he's going to be embarrassed by this. I asked special permission to tell you the story. To get the Nobel Prize and go over to Stockholm in December, you have to be outstanding. And it's determined by the Karolinska Institute. And Stan and his co-worker, who developed the solutions with Stan, were his two little puppy dogs. And they were not only nominated, but they were going to be awarded the Nobel Prize. But this gentleman from Sweden died right before the ceremony. So Stan is still a Nobel winner in my mind. And we all are there. And finally, thank goodness, I want to quantitate some of the numbers. It was alluded that what he has done has helped a lot of folks. I want to put numbers on that. It's estimated that 8 million premature babies are alive because of this man. And 11 million adults are alive because of this man. Now, it's nice to be a great man or a great woman, but it's also nice to be a nice person. And one doesn't mean the other. But if I were to ever use, Dr. William Osler talks about the most important thing for an accomplished physician is to be humble. And believe me, Stan is humble. And before I conclude at the end, I want to tell you just one story on this. It's been my greatest pleasure, truly an honor, to work with our own Stanley Dudrick. Stanley?
Well, by now you've had a toxic dose of Dudrick before you go into anaphylactic shock. I apologize for all that, for putting you through it, but you're tough to put up with it, and I appreciate your friendship and support to be here. You have no idea how much it means to me, and I'm not exaggerating. It means more to me than getting the Nobel Prize, and not just a little medal with the guy's head on it. Look at all you here. You went out of your way to be here. You've been here for a few hours, and you're here because you want to be. You're pleasant, and you're enjoying it, and you just make me feel like $1 million, and I'm very grateful to you, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, Jerry Tracy is, to some extent, represents what I'm all about. He was a student of mine when I was a chief resident in surgery, and we would work hard, make rounds at night when everybody else went home, and then when we finished, I would go off to the lab while everybody else either went home or went to bed or whatever, and I'd look at my puppies, because I had some of them still going while I was taking care of patients, and Jerry came up to me and said, "Dr. Dudrick, can I go to the lab with you?" And I said, "Well, why would you want to go to the lab with me?" He says, "I want to see what you do." And I said, "I'm sure you have better things to do. You probably ought to go read your books and get ready for exams." He said, "No." He said, "Please let me go with you." So he would go with me at the end of a hard day, and we'd spend a couple hours looking at my puppies, me scraping poo-poo off the bottom of the cable, collecting urine and seeing that the dogs were okay, and checking all their data, and Jerry was just eating it all up, and you don't get very many students like that. And then he came back here and initiated essentially a whole new era and level of standard of care in internal medicine, cardiology, invasive cardiology, cardiac catheterization, operating rooms to do heart surgery in, extracorporeal heart-lung machines, bringing in surgeons from all over the country to do heart surgery here in the Luzerne-Lackawanna area. He's responsible for that. His energy, his dynamism, his courage, and his insight. And then he carried, after doing all that, he carried that with his colleagues, some of whom are here, Dr. Wright, Dr. Naismith, and others, who all got together to start a medical school. And it's now history. It's not, as I've said someplace, it's not if the medical school's going to make it. It's how high it's going to go. It's going to be one of the best medical schools in the country because it's based on the
finest principles, and it's been broadly based, and now it's being supported. It still needs more support, and I just hope that the people of this community will support the school as their very own, the way I feel you are my very own. We need to invest in that medical school. No matter how much money Geisinger puts into the medical school, it's still not enough. There's never enough money to take care of all the patients optimally. There's always more can be done. There's always more science you need to discover. And that institution represents this valley and this community. And I hope you will give it as much support as you possibly can, because it really does deserve it. I'm not going to be around to benefit from it, but I've already benefited from being associated with it and making the friends and colleagues I've made and getting back together with Jerry. But there are other important things that happen that you don't even have time to think about. But I'm looking here in the audience now and I see Alice Gurka Pavlovsky sitting here. Raise your hand, Alice. Alice was a classmate of mine and a wonderfully talented young lady. God, she could dance and sing, and she was smart and pretty, and God, everybody loved Alice. And I envied her. She could stand at a piano and play any kind. Played Beethoven all the way to honky tonk. And she was just, you know, Miss Congeniality and, you know, Miss Nanticoke High School. And I'd go on a date with her, and I'd go up to her home. The Gorkas lived up on the 1200 block of Hanover. And her sister, her older sister, was Doris Gorka, who became Doris Gorka Bartuska. And she became chief of endocrinology, I believe, at Women's Medical. She became an associate dean at Penn. She just did it all. And I used to really be a wonderful date for Alice. I'd go to her house and read her sister's medical books. I'm sure she probably thought that I had a date with her so I could read the books. In part, you were right, Alice, but mainly to be honest, but it was also to be with you. And then her father became mayor of town. Edward Gorka, was it not? Mr. Edward Gorka became mayor in Nanticoke, and that was about in the 70s, I think, or 60s, I'm not sure, and invited me up to Nanticoke, and he and the council presented me with the key to the city. Yes. So here's one person here out of all of you, and each of you has a story that goes along with that. And Jerry, by the way, I've got to say one more thing about him. He is taking time out. He has other things to do tonight, and he had other things to do today. But he took time to come here to do this for me and for us. But you know, he just won I think the 27th Distinguished Service Award of the Pennsylvania Medical Society. They've only given it 27 or 28 times in the past 68 years. And he won it for his wonderful work in cardiology and in starting to foundation. Like me from Nanticoke lose when he has friends and associates like that. It's we all help each other, and it's a privilege and honor to be with him. I love to sit and talk with him. We get into discussions that are just blow your mind about literature and history and governance and art and philosophy. He's a true Renaissance man, and I appreciate being able to do that with him. And Dr. Wright and Dr. Naismith are two others just like him. Well, I'm yapping now. Out infinitum. I want to thank everybody for being here to share this with me. I want to thank Bill Yobst for making a wonderful presentation. I'm sorry that our dean couldn't be here. His daughter is being married out west someplace, but I thought his television production was fantastic. I'm just so humbled and grateful to all of you. Thank you for sharing this very, very special part of my life with me, and thanks for getting me here in the first place.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I'm the end of the program. And I just want to tell you one quick story. Being Irish and from Luzerne County, you always have a story. But we interview seemingly thousands of students a year. That's not true. It's 600 to 700. It just seems that way. But on certain Saturdays, we have an overflow, and they come. And I like to give the full-time staff a rest on Saturday and come in, and you have double load. You have 4 students. And I leave time in my remarks because every time I do this, I see somebody shuffle in the back door, and it's Stanley Dudrick. And I always cut 5 to 10 minutes out. Sometimes I should cut more, but in any event, 5 to 10 minutes. In any event, Stan, just think about it. A person with 120 awards, internationally and nationally, over 300 papers, is willing to come in on a Saturday to interview students. So I always tell the students, there's a gentleman in the back, and those of you who are going into surgery, take the time, go back and shake his hand, because in 10 to 20 years, on round, somewhere with students or residents, when hyperalimentation comes out, you could say, oh, I know the guy who started that. I shook hands with nice conversation at my medical school. And that's Stanley Dudrick, and that's the humility, which is, to me, unbelievable. So it's always a pleasure. I'm supposed to thank all of you for coming. Stan has already done that. I'm just happy to be back near Sugar Notch. I just feel better. And drive safely.
I just got the officials. Oh, okay. Alan disappeared. Okay.